Hello, socialites. Welcome back to Survivor Social, the Survivor podcast, where we discuss Survivor with a focus on the social elements of the game. My name is Tegwith, and as always, I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Kara. Kara, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I am in black because I'm mourning the loss of our Andy and Genevieve. So,
Yes, real. She's real for
solemn
that.
time.
But we have an amazing guest today. I love Emily. You might know her from her incredible TikToks from Big Brother. This is, I believe, her first New Era season that she's watching, and I'm just so excited to break down the episode with you. Emily, how are you?
I'm good. Super excited to be here. Excited to be back jumping into the survival world for the first time in a very long time. So excited to chat.
How are you feeling about this season? How do you like it?
I've been having a blast, and I feel like I picked a really good time to jump back in because I feel like I keep seeing comments like this might be the best New Era season, and I am like, maybe I just have really good timing. And I felt that way about Big Brother this year when I saw people jumping in for the first time. I was like, you picked a great time. So it's nice that I feel like Survivor is carrying it on, and it's just been a really good string of CBS reality TV.
Yeah, it really has. You think about like the reality TV that we've gotten this year, it's been just truly so good because we got but 46 was good in a different way. It was chaotic in a different, like good in a different way. 47 is incredible. Big Brother 26 was amazing. The Traitors was good. Like we got a really good season of Australian Survivor. Like 2024 for reality TV has been so much fun. I'm very sad that the year's over, but like we've got like 3 reality TV shows starting right in like the beginning of January. We've got Traitors, we've got Deal or No Deal Island just ready to go right away. But before we dig into the episode, as always, make sure to like and subscribe to Survivor Now on YouTube and Spotify. And as a reminder, we are live right now. We're live on X, we're live on YouTube, we're live on TikTok. Hi, TikTok. And we'll get to some questions that you have at the end. So if anything pops up, make sure to send questions in on the chat. I'll try to get to as many as possible. It's like one of our favorite segments because we talk about some really random stuff and it's so fun. But let's dig into the episode. So obviously, I want to start off with the thing that, I'm really sad about, but is one of my favorite moves of this new era and of this season in specifically, which would be, Rachel's idol play. And I know that's kind of a broad thing to start on, but I think it's one of the bigger like things to talk about. Emily, how did you feel when you watched that? Because I mean, we haven't gotten a lot of big idol plays like that in the new era, and having the first big one of the season in the new era. How did you feel about that?
I think she is just so talented at the game of strategy in general. Like, I think obviously I'm new to New Era Survivor, but I think in other competitive games, she would be thriving just as well. And so I think she has been thinking about things in the long game, and she's been thinking about the idol and how to use it and thinking about what the best time to be. I mean, back to her shot in the dark. I think any other person on that cast would have used that idol weeks ago. And so I think she had it in her pocket for long enough that it was able to really serve her well. And I think that is going to be, assuming she makes it to final tribal council, I think that's going to be something that she can talk about, how long she had it and the fact that she didn't use it earlier on when other people might have.
That's a really good point. Kara, how did you feel in that moment when she said, you know what, Jeff, I'm actually going to be alive tomorrow?
Oh my God. It was so good. That was such a good moment. And the whole lead up to it, like Rachel talking to Andy and Sam on the beach, and then, everyone telling her that they're voting her, which was like so crazy that no one even like considered an idol could be played. And then for her to just pull it out and play the idol on herself, fantastic. It was great.
It was incredible. It was so good. And if you think about, like, I remember when I was watching the episode, the moment when she told Sue, I almost thought to myself, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, she's kept it in for so long. And she's doing this nice thing because she doesn't want Sue to have to, dig around in the dirt when she knows that she has an idol. Funnily enough, Sue also has an idol. But, that was just a moment where I went, oh my God, is this when it all comes crashing down for her? But I think she has a really good read on people, and she has a really good read on the situation. And she kind of has an idea. She knows that Sue is loyal to the soil, as Andy would say. She is somebody who is incredibly loyal. And you hear that in the first couple of moments back when they come back from after the blow up of Operation Italy. And Sue goes, I've never in my life. I can't respect somebody who flips like that. And having that kind of reaction, obviously she was on the outs, but it just gives Rachel, another proof basically that like, hey, this person is, hates flippers, doesn't like doing all of that good stuff. And I think that she read the situation correct. And I think that Sue was going to love the fact that she was in on that. She knew it was going to happen. Did you ever think, for a moment that Sue was going to spill the beans and tell somebody that Rachel had an idol?
I mean, I thought it was possible because I feel like everyone knows now that Rachel is a threat to win in the end. And it would have been like a good opportunity to maybe somehow not get her to play it, flush it, vote her out, whatever. But I think Sue just wants someone to have there, and that's Rachel. And I think Rachel telling Sue about it is going to help her even more in the end game, going into final three.
I think I figured Sue would keep it a secret because her whole thing has been loyalty. I did think Sue was wild for being out there looking. I would love to hear her exit interviews next week on if she was actually looking. Like, was that a real thing she was doing? Or was she like, let me just let people think that I'm weak? And was that more of a strategy that we just didn't get to see? Because she knew she had one. She didn't share with Rachel that she had it, even when she could have in that moment for that to be like a one-to-one. She was out there digging for what? And so I'm very interested to hear from her later on if that was actually like, I would like another one, or if she just was like, let them think that I'm worried. I thought that was interesting, but I figured she would keep it secret for her.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like one of those brief, but then I was like, you know what? Look who she's talking to. She's talking to Sue. She's talking to somebody who is probably the most loyal person I've seen out on that beach after maybe Mike Turner from 41. Like, she's very loyal. And so, I feel like it was the right choice. And I think it'll be interesting to hear if Rachel makes it to final tribal council, what she'll be like, what she'll say. And if Sue will be like, hey, but I knew about this. But it was just really interesting. We have this comment over here from Roy Jolly saying, I'm such an Andy fan that I hate to admit that the idol play trumped Operation Italy. Do you guys agree? Do you think it trumped Operation Italy?
It was different. I feel like you can't compare it.
It was
like different. You can't compare the two.
I compared it to I compared the first part of part one of part one to Rome's boot episode, where it felt like that, but just in reverse. Yeah. Where we all knew Rome was going home. Like we, the audience, all knew Rome was going home, and everyone knew that Rome was going home. The only person that didn't know that Rome was going home was Rome. And it was like in reverse, where we knew that Rachel had an idol. Rachel knows that Rachel has an idol. Nobody else on that beach knows that Rachel has an idol. So it's like, who is Rachel going to choose? Emily, do you think that she made the right choice going for Andy rather than Sam?
I do. And I went back and forth on it for a little while because I think ultimately, I think realistically it would be hard for Andy to get votes come at the end. I think he would be a deserving person of some votes, but I think that the jury is too far gone on finding any way to respect him. But I think that the sentiment of where she was with Andy and how she could kind of argue that point at final tribal council, I think more so than Sam. I also think that she in her mind probably thinks Sam is a little more dead in the water than we all are seeing from the edit. It seems like, her and Genevieve were talking about, they thought it was just the two of them talking about that in front of everybody. And so I think that she started to hear what Andy was saying, think about it, and be like, I'm not willing to risk it. So I think in terms of her presenting that as a move, it is going to end up being the better for her in the long run.
Kara, what do you think?
I think it was a good move. I think Sam is more of a risk in the final three. I think he could definitely win over Rachel if they're both there together. And I think Andy probably would have had a harder time over Sam. So.
Yeah. And I would also say that, I was talking to Ryan, my partner, about this earlier, and I was saying, this was before the episode, and I literally went if Andy's in fire, he's winning fire. I mean, he's a super fan. He knows how to, of course he knows how to make fire, all that stuff. And then Ryan went, but he's also kind of choked a lot of other times in the show. And so even though in that one-on-one interaction where he's explaining his game to Rachel and being like, you know what, you're out. Here's my game basically. The pressure is so much lower in that moment than at Final Tribal Council, where an entire jury is sitting there waiting to interrogate you. And so I feel like it's also important to say, you know, what is this person's track record of performance in this game? Because Final Tribal Council, we all know that I think Tribal Council in itself is theater. Final Tribal Council is Broadway. Like, you know, Tribal Council's regional theater. Final Tribal Council is you're on the big stage, you're on Broadway. And I feel like, is Andy somebody is he going to be able to articulate it in that moment with that kind of pressure when he's had that pressure before in, you know, immunity challenges in other ways and hasn't really been able to perform? And so I feel like that was also something to think about. I don't think that she made the right decision. I think that she should have gone for Sam, because I think that Sam has a very clear, maybe disagreeing with some other people, but has a really clear path to get to the end. And Rachel have the clearest like game to present. But it's just like an interesting thing. And I don't know, I'm just very curious to see how it'll all end up.
Yeah. And I also feel like you get Sam here, like, you know, Andy's not going to win the next challenge, probably. Just get him at the next one.
Unless he's really been like hiding that, you know, unless he's really been like downplaying that. True. But it's just interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment to whether or not it's right. Now, you know, it might not even matter. It might be like Rachel and Teenie in fire, and Rachel, Sam, and, you know, Stu are at the end, or, you know, Teenie, Sam, and Stu, whoever it is. So it could be very interesting to like how I think it will be interesting no matter what. Now, something else I want to talk about. This is kind of a pivot. This is specifically to Andy's game. And when they get back from Tribal Council, right, we see the three people who are blindsided. They're upset, obviously, and Teenie is really upset. And Teenie basically pulls Andy to the side and is like, it seemed like you flipped. And Andy said, I just made that decision right then and there. I just made that decision. How do we feel about him saying that? Do we think that that was the right thing for him to do? Do we think that that was bad? Emily, I'll start with you.
I think it was good because it worked. I think like they have figured out that Teenie is susceptible to whatever people are saying, because I think that they're a very trusting person in real life, and they haven't been able to kind of take that part of themselves away in the game of Survivor. And so whatever they were saying, for the most part, I mean, even back to Genevieve, you know, jumping ahead a little bit, but Genevieve and talking about the fake idol, I think there's a reason why Teenie started questioning it so much, and she probably could have argued to Teenie that it was real, and Teenie probably would have went with it. So I think Andy saying that got Teenie to believe a little bit further on, like, oh, well, maybe I was not that far on the outside. Now, I think if it hadn't worked, I think if he had tried to apply that strategy to some of the other people on the island, maybe not. But I think it helped kind of goad Teenie into being convinced that like this wasn't really a big plan. So I think it was the right move on his end.
Kara, what do you think?
I agree. I agree. I think that whole thing, like with Teenie, like I think Teenie was just going to believe whatever they told them at that point, and for Teenie to have whatever the first information coming back after that, I think Teenie was going to believe, and I think it worked for them. So
yeah,
I think it's good.
Now, this is not necessarily about this episode, but it's something that I was thinking about today when I was commuting to work. I don't know why it popped into my head, but I was thinking about just like the season in general and the decision to vote out Asia, I think was Teenie's biggest mistake of the game, because obviously the next thing that happened to Teenie was Genevieve blindsiding Keyshawn. That was really bad for them. And I think that really kind of like messed up their brain. And then the next thing to happen, that they were blindsided again with Saul, again by Genevieve. And so I think back to like that, what was that, episode 3, and think to myself, how this game would have played out differently had Asia stayed in the game and Genevieve been voted out instead. And I feel like it would have been absolutely crazy. And I think that Teenie's game would be a lot better, because I think Teenie really has been reeling ever since then, not really been able to get their footing. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think there would have been like a change in Teeny's game had that gone differently?
Yeah, I think Teeny had such a strong start in the game with Keyshawn, with Asia, and like just immediately everything was taken away from Teeny, and like that's a lot all at once to like recover from, and like people just already like making big moves and lying to you, and I feel like that definitely would have changed everything if that didn't happen for Teeny. What do you think, Emily?
And I think that's somebody who probably would have been like a ride or die through the entire rest of the season. I think Asia would have been there to ride out with Teeny. I think Asia talked about wanting to have a couple strong like 2-person alliances when she was in preseason interviews. And so I think that would have been something that kind of stood the test of time, at least for a while. And I think that Asia probably would have been able to kind of take Teeny under their wing in a lot of ways. Asia, I think, was a little less likely to be trusting, was kind of seeing through some things. And I think that would have been helpful to Teeny. Whereas Teeny kind of ended up a free agent, kind of hopping around. So I definitely think that would have been a lot different. I think the island in general without Genevieve present would have been a lot different. Teeny has talked about this past episode how much time she feels like she spent being lied to by Genevieve. We got that entire montage of all of the ways that she has tricked her, and none of that would have happened. So I think Teeny's entire storyline looks a lot different.
Yeah.
I totally agree. We've got some good comments over here. This was about a previous discussion, but Chris says, I agree. I never thought Andy was that strong, had that strong of a chance of winning the game, but that he figured he would make it to the end and get a couple of votes max. I mean, a lot of people were talking about him being like a 0 vote finalist at it. Honestly, I think it's best for Andy, just in the longevity of Survivor, that he was voted out here, because this was it's kind of like a fallen angel. It's not the fallen angel spot, but it is kind of a him and Genevieve. You can go back and forth like that. One of those is a fallen angel. I feel like you have a better chance coming back with that kind of I was idled out than being a 0 vote finalist. Don't you guys agree?
Yeah, and like the way he went out, being idled out and like kind of talking himself out of the game, I just feel like is so Andy, and is like just a perfect like end to his story, where like when he comes back, it'll be a good like learning curve for him, you know.
And I feel like they edited it in a way that it was like, to me, it feels very strongly that the returner from 47 is going to be one of the two of them. And I think that put a good capstone, like you just said, Kara, on his story to then pick back up if he is the one that ends up coming back on 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Rosafa says Andy made the right move. He avoided looking threatening by looking indecisive. I think that, I also think that you think about like, had Rachel not had an idol, this could have been a turning point for Andy. Like I would say in any other season, if you think somebody is going home, do what Andy did. You're in final 6. If you really feel like you have no chance of winning the game, you're not going to get the votes. People don't respect your game. You keep hearing that you're a GOAT. You are 98% sure somebody's going home. Sit down and be like, hey man, I am going to be voting for you. I don't want to blindside you. I respect your game. Here is why, here's been my game up to here. Because then you can kind of just have a conversation about your game with that person. You might go out, but also like if you are 98% sure they're going home, you get voted out instead. Okay, they have an idol. That sucks. But like if she didn't have an idol, I feel like it wouldn't have been that bad for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I think he had the right idea. I think it was just unfortunate that Rachel had the idol, but like it was a good move. Like it was smart to do that.
Because what is there to lose, right? You either come in 6th or, you stay in the game. This person who's no longer in the game has learned that you actually played a much better game than they thought. And maybe they're over there, the jury saying, hey, this is actually somebody that I might want to vote for. Like, I would rather, I don't know, go out swinging than, be like, I'll explain it later, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't work, but it's okay. I guess it's okay. He tried, right? Roy Jolly commented, Teeny with Asia to mentor them would have been completely to Teeny's benefit. I agree. I totally agree. And that's the interesting thing about Survivor. So one different thing happens, like at the beginning of the game. John Lovett stays in and Andy goes out, right? It would have been a completely different season. It's just kind of very interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, so go ahead, Kara.
And I saw like a tweet or something where it was like if Caroline was on the Gotta tribe, like Caroline would have cheered for Andy cutting the coconut or whatever, and that would have changed the whole game completely. So
Oh my God, you're so right.
Literally. I saw that tweet. I put that in my little like tweet roundup today. I was late on that. That is, I mean, that's a big thing. People are talking a lot about, actually, I would love to hear both of your, this is not about the episode, but I would love to hear both of your thoughts on this. A lot of people on the internet are upset with Rachel's game because she has been really lucky. Production has been giving her advantages, which that's not true, but whatever. And I think it's really interesting how much luck does play into the game of Survivor. Do you think that Rachel's just been incredibly lucky, or, do you think that she's been able to use her luck? Emily, I would love to hear what you think about that.
I was listening to, I can't remember which RHAP podcast it was about this, where they were talking about it and arguing why that's really not the case. And I think so much of the conversation surrounding this is reminding me of the conversation about BB26 and the winner Chelsea this season. And it's arguable, but I would say she's probably a top 5 winner for me, probably the best female winner. But the conversation, people are like, well, technically she was nominated a couple times and she this and this, and the person who a lot of people consider the best, Derek, never was running the house the whole time. And to me personally, I find it more impressive if you have had to play through adversity, which is something that Rachel has had to do. Rachel also has been the bearer of bad luck too. The rock draw to be on the tribe with on the team with all of Tuku, that was terrible luck. And it turned out that, another luck of someone else, but it was also a decision. That was a decision that Soul made on a gameplay thing. It wasn't luck for her. She didn't get an advantage to be able to do that. That was a decision that another player used. It's like if somebody used an idol on you, you're not lucky because you found it. It's an entire different situation. So for me, it's impressive when somebody has to work hard to be able to overcome adversity, to play back up from the bottom. Saw it in Big Brother this season, and I think it made her win extremely impressive. And I think if Rachel is the ultimate winner, I think the same thing will be true for her.
Yeah. Kara, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. I think she has been lucky, and I think that's just part of Survivor. Some people are just lucky and some people just aren't. I feel like you can argue that Teenie has been very unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't.
It's just
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, it's just interesting because luck is important in the game of Survivor. I was talking about it, how it's lucky that you passed on Survivor. It's lucky if you win Survivor, you won it because you were lucky to have been put on a tribe with people who you got along with, or who was a more obvious target than you, or and how you use that luck, I think is the really important thing with Survivor, because every single winner of Survivor has been lucky in some way, shape, or form, because it's not you're not in Big Brother. You all play together at once. You're all in one house, right? And I'm not saying there's not luck involved, but it's just they're divided into tribes. And if you're divided onto a tribe, if you think about Jess, for example, from season 46, she was not clicking with anybody. She and Banu, I mean, she wasn't really even clicking with Banu. She was only with Banu because she felt like she wasn't clicking with anybody else. That's incredibly unlucky for Jess to not have somebody that she immediately got along with. And obviously that didn't work out for her because she got voted out second or third or whatever it was. And so in another season with somebody that maybe she gets along with and, they click, maybe she goes on to win the entire game. You get cast on Survivor because they think that you have the potential to win, unless you're Jelinski.
Oh my God.
Jeff said that. It wasn't me. Jeffrey Probst, Father Probst said that when they cast Jelinski, he did not think that Jelinski could win.
That is terrible.
Isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible? But so yeah, I think that luck is a very interesting part of Survivor. And just not the children.
No, literally, that's crazy.
Quinn's in the chat going, not the Jelinsky.
Can I also say, as someone, this is my first New Era season, and I obviously like have heard people talking about Jelinsky. I got a Jelinsky TikTok today on my For You page, and that was the first time I'd ever seen that man's face in my life. And I was like, somehow that's exactly how I imagined, based on what I've heard and the lore and people talking about it this year. I was like, that is exactly what I pictured.
No Jelinsky slander here.
No,
we love Jelinsky on this podcast. My winner pick too.
Quinn. Jelinsky was also Quinn's winner pick. Kara was Jelinsky was also Kara's winner pick.
I think I talked about him like every single episode last season we did.
You and Jeff. That's you guys.
Literally. But for Rachel, like she has had like I feel like we talked about this. Like she's had for every like bad thing that has happened to her, it's been evened out by something good happening for her. And while she's been lucky, she also still has like good social connections with other people that are, you know, helping her and moving her through the game and everything. So it's not like she's just like getting advantages and like using that to get through. She has other things going for her.
Exactly. I completely agree. It's very interesting. And I think she is playing an incredible game. And if she does end up winning, I would be very, very, very happy with that win. I would be also, honestly, I would be pretty happy with anybody winning. Honestly, I've said this for a couple of seasons. The most shocking to me would be Sue, but I don't think I would hate a Sue win. I wouldn't hate
like Sue I feel like Sue could win.
I think that she could too, but I think I would be just the most shocked by it just because of her edit.
Over Teenie?
Because I think Teenie has had some quotes where Teenie has said something and I've been, that's something they would put in because a winner would say that. Like with the Saul, like I'm going to avenge Saul. They're just like literally looking at the edit specifically. I just feel like there have been things that they have given to Teenie that they haven't given to Sue. Really. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe Sue's game is slightly better than Teenie's but I'm just thinking about how they have edited it. But didn't they say Sue got like that quote at the beginning? Like Sue got like, there's this point in time in the, first episode where Kenzie got a quote, Jam got a quote, D got a quote. Like apparently all of these New Era winners all got a quote and like Sue got that quote. So
I think
Sam did too, right?
What?
I think Sam said something in the first episode
where people were like, "Oh, that's Sam. That's a winner quote."
It was something about like something about the glue if you leave it in too long. I can't think of what it is exactly.
Oh, I remember that. Something about getting it. Like I remember that. Interesting. Emily, this doesn't really have anything to do with this episode, but is this something interesting because you are a Big Brother person? How is it watching the new like Survivor, knowing that the edit does really come into play?
Wild. It has been I've talked about it on TikTok a little bit. It's been a wild thing to have perspective of like these people, production are editing, knowing who the winner is from the beginning of what they're talking about. And on Big Brother, I think this season was a great example. From the audience, if you weren't watching the live feeds, you really didn't know that much about the game that Chelsea was playing until like the last 3 weeks. She didn't start getting a mastermind edit on the episodes until so late in because it was like the producers couldn't see it that far ahead. If it was on Survivor and it was Chelsea's game, she would have had a very different edit on episodes. Mm-hmm. And so it's been wild to experience. I also have learned a lot about the people who, analyze the edit. And I saw something towards the beginning where people were like, in the title sequence, you see the number 47, and then you see Sam, and then you see 47 again. And he's bookended by the numbers of the season, and that means he's the winner. And very, very minute analyses like that, which I think is fascinating. I'm a little intimidated by that, and I kind of just let everyone else figure that out. But it's very wild to see the perspective of that versus Big Brother for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Survivor fans are on the same, maybe not the same level, but a similar level to like Taylor Swift fans, in a sense where like Taylor Swift fans would be like, one time Taylor Swift tweeted this one thing about this number, and that's how many seconds I think it'll be before she drops, a clue to her next thing. And like, I feel like that's how Survivor fans look at the edits. Like one time in a commercial once, Rachel winked, and that means she wins. You know, it's like so
Like fire in the glasses.
The fire reflection in the glasses.
Mhm.
When people keep talking about that, I'm like, who is thinking about this? Wild.
The
Yeah.
reason there is a reason for that. It's because in season 44, I don't want to spoil too much, but there was a person, because you haven't seen it, but there's a person who goes to fire, and in like the third episode, they were shown with fire in their glasses, and somebody on Reddit just went, I wonder if that means they're in fire. And they were in fire and they lost in fire. It was like a very big deal. And like people were freaking out because it was like one of the first, like New Era, they're really playing with the edit and like really kind of like throwing us off and doing these like things and having a little bit more fun. And so it was, yeah, it's like the fire in the glasses and the bag, the burned bag, that's everywhere.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, on Big Brother this year, I don't know if Quinn is still in here, so sorry for the stray if you are. But the glasses edit we got on Big Brother this year was Leah's sunglasses, and the challengers edit with Quinn and Joseph because she was between the two men. That was the edit. We got a photoshopped of people onto the glasses. Sometimes I try to talk about Big Brother to people, and I'm like, I cannot in good faith recommend this show to anyone who hasn't seen it, because how do you explain? I'm like, this is a real serious show. There's strategy and then stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this to people. Meanwhile, the seriousness of Survivor, sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna.
We kind of take ourselves a little bit too seriously over here. We're really into it.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting to watch this edit, and especially, you know, I feel like this last episode was interesting because of how let me rest.
To be fair, Quinn, you were my winner pick. You were my winner pick in my fantasy team. I am a Quinian through and through. But
I don't remember who my winner pick was.
I don't want to say who my winner pick was. Too embarrassing.
oh no.
Who was it? Jelinski?
It was even worse. It was Matt.
Oh no.
Incredible.
Oh,
That's
no.
incredible. I respect that. I have no idea. I don't remember whose mine was. I think it was like maybe Angela or something. Whatever. I really, at the end there, I was like, I feel like this woman's gonna win this freaking show. How did that
I
happen?
can never pick a winner correctly. I'm
It's
gonna
hard.
pick Miss Boots.
It's really hard to do. I think it's a little bit easier to do on Survivor because it's everything that is released, it's edited, and they know who wins
Mhm.
at that point. Big Brother is you're going in blind. You're going in with 2 days of like, you know, you're finding out about those people for 2 days. Survivor, you have a whole month to like really
Mhm.
go into their personalities. In
You know-
Big Brother, you have nothing.
So this is a side note for Big Brother, but me, my cousins and brother, we do a draft or whatever, and my brother and cousins have all correctly picked winners for the past, like,
That's
I think since
impossible.
BB20 when we started doing a draft, and this is the first season actually none of us picked the correct winner.
Wow.
I saw somebody on TikTok who, towards the beginning of the Big Brother season, who was like, I pick like a male and female potential winner. And it was going back like 8 seasons or something, and they had the winner between the two of them. Wild.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
That's incredible. Could not be me. I just, for those of you who are not watching and you're listening, I just want to point out that this comment, Quinn says Matt for Summit season 2. I'd watch. Is he going to get the axe? I love this. Okay, so I do want to talk about Genevieve's boot a little bit because I think Genevieve, this episode was a very interesting episode because I felt like going into this, I felt like either Genevieve or Rachel was going to leave. It was going to be one of the two. It was going to be like King Kong and Godzilla going like the big fight, and one of them had to die. Or what did they say? They said, you know, Harry Potter and Voldemort. Like one could not survive, or one had to survive and one had to die. And I kind of was shocked that I was partially shocked that it was Genevieve who ended up leaving. Mainly because I really felt like more of Operation Italy was going to survive. The fact that 2 out of the 3 Operation Italy left was like, oh God, I hate that. But is there, you know, a world where Genevieve could have pled her case a little bit more and been like, again, Sam should be the one to leave and not me? Or do you think that in everyone's mind, it's very much, it's either Rachel or Genevieve. We've got to get one out and one safe. So we got to go for Genevieve.
Yeah, I go back and forth with this where I feel like, could she have convinced them that the idol was real? They put more votes on Sam, and then if she plays the idol, she plays it, she's safe. and if not, Sam goes or whatever. I don't know.
I think it was really a great move by Sam to tell people about the idol. And I think this is why in the back of my mind, I think Rachel probably wins, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I can see some things for Sam because it goes back to when Rachel tells Sam about the plan to vote for him, episodes ago. And she was like, please don't blow up my spot. He immediately blows up her spot and it ends up working out for him. Like all of the way that things worked and all of the movement and things that started happening. So Sam has had a couple of those moments where he does like a little bit of a risky, like spilling someone's tea and it works out for him. And so I think it was definitely a great move by Sam. I think if he had not done that, for sure there was a world in which Genevieve could have convinced people, but I think that was the nail in her coffin. And I don't really think there was a way to overcome that for her.
Yeah. I think if Rachel is not safe, I think that it's to Sam and Genevieve's best, like it's the best thing for their game to pretend that I think Sam should continue. Like say Sue wins this for some reason, right? And it's not either Genevieve or Rachel. I think it's in their best interest to pretend that idol is real, because then I think that they have a fighting chance, because they're like, I'll play it. Genevieve's like, I'll play it for Sam. I will. And then they split it between, like, if they have to split between the votes, they don't. Sue has an idol, right? So Sue could still play that idol. Would probably, if Sue's safe, Sue would probably play it for either herself or for Rachel. But I think there's a world in which they could figure out, move some things around and get like, 2 votes on somebody and they go out or whatever it is. But I think that because Rachel is safe, it was the only thing Sam could do. If you're in Sam's shoes, are you just going to be like, okay, guys, that fake idol, totally real, vote for me? Like it would be, you would just be a sitting duck. It would be so difficult to let that happen. And there's no benefit. I think it could have been interesting to kind of play with the fact that, hey, it could be real. It could not be. Why don't we just vote for Teenie instead? Why don't we just like vote for somebody else? You don't know if it's real or not. So why not just do it over there and vote for Teenie? I feel like that would take a lot of convincing. I don't know if it would hit, but it could have been interesting. I don't think it would have worked, but
yeah, it would have been interesting to see, but
it's just one of those things. I feel like you're that far in the game. You kind of are learning people's tells. You kind of know, and being like, yeah, it would have taken a lot of social capital to turn it on Teenie with people who really felt like they worked with them well and want to keep them probably as a goat to the end. It probably would have really been an uphill battle, but it would have been interesting. Another interesting thing I think would have been cool would have been Sue's idol playing it for somebody else. I don't know if it would have been good, but
yeah, I don't think voting Teenie out at any point makes sense at all. At least at this point, I don't think it makes sense. Sue's idol play would have just been the best for Caroline, I think.
Yeah. Was it worth it for Sue to play that idol at all? Or do you think it would have been more interesting for her to just keep it?
So we talked about this yesterday on the other podcast, and my stance on it was I think it would have had the same reaction whether she played it at this one or if she revealed that she had it at Final Tribal. I think they would have had the same reaction to it either way, because it didn't do anything when she played it, and then I think it would just been the same. Yeah. So I'm like, I feel like it was nice that I feel like it was nice that she had that moment. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like,
you're good.
About to cough. That was it.
Do you agree, Emily?
Yeah, I think so. I think realistically, I don't really know what the argument is to try to justify keeping it that you couldn't also argue you had it at the end. Because I think you could say, I didn't have to use it. She was pretty sure she was safe, but like, what does having it in your pocket accomplish other than being able to say, like, I had it this whole time and I didn't use it? But how dumb. If things had gone crazy, I think it's worth playing it if you feel like you can still argue, like, I never even had to use it, because you used it because what other option was there? So I think she might have I don't know what the point would have been otherwise, really.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I don't know if I think that playing it and keeping it for Sue specifically doesn't really help or hurt really. But just to kind of play the other side, I think that playing it, showing people at Final Tribal Council that I had this, it's fresher in their minds when they're actively deciding whether or not they want to like vote for somebody. I think pulling it out of Final Tribal Council, being like, I had this the entire time. Nobody knew about it. Not a single person except for Caroline knew about this idol. I didn't need to use it. I was in on all of the votes except when I wasn't, and I still ended up not being blindsided. And people were so confident that I didn't have an idol that Rachel even told me she had her idol. I knew that Rachel had her idol. I knew that she was going to do that because I was looking for idols. I didn't need to look for idols. I had idols. I had an idol in my pocket. But she felt like I didn't have one. So she told me she had one, and I kept it secret. And she's, sitting over there because she lost fire. She's sitting next to me because she won, whatever it is. And I think that there could be an argument there at Final Tribal Council when people are actively deciding whether or not they're going to vote for you or vote for somebody else, and it's just fresher in their mind. For Sue's game specifically, does it help? Probably not. But if it's somebody like, say, Teeny had the idol or somebody else had an idol, maybe I think it would have just like hit a little bit more, because I do think like playing it at Final Six when it's not necessary gets then buried by the Genevieve blindside, gets buried by what's going to happen at Fire. And it's not as fresh of a thing. And being like, hey guys, don't you guys remember that idol I had and played and didn't need? I just think that falls flatter than going to the Final Tribal Council and being like, I've had this the entire time. You guys didn't know about it. And I think that just has a little bit more oomph to it. It didn't work for Dean. Like it doesn't work all the time. Just having things doesn't work. But I think it's slightly a more interesting thing than just playing it just to play it, just to be like, I don't need this, but here,
Yeah, I agree. But
just another side to it. Ronnie said Sue had to play it for Caroline to impress the jury. Yeah,
I agree.
I think that the only way to impress the jury is to play it for somebody else or use it like Marianne, but Marianne had some pretty good moves to back up her Final Tribal Council.
Yeah, I watched Marianne talking about like pulling her idol out at the Final Tribal Council, and that was like so good. I don't think it would have had the same effect if Sue did that.
Interesting question here. Ronnie says it worked for Marianne, but would it feel like she copied? I don't know. I think it's been what, 4 seasons, so it's not, immediate. It's been 2 years. And they've played very different games, so it's not like they played the exact same game. Like they played very different games. And, I didn't feel like when who after Chris, who put them in fire, who put themselves in fire? Who was that? Heidi.
Yeah.
Like Heidi, like I didn't feel like they were copying Chris Underwood, So that's just
what Roy said in the comments. Like it worked for Marianne because someone played an idol for her and she still had hers. Like that's the difference.
That's true.
Between just having it, like someone played one for her.
That's true. That's very true. It's just very interesting. And like, when it really doesn't make a difference in terms of like, she's not saving herself, she's not saving anybody else. Is there any benefit? And it's like for Sue's game, maybe not, but I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on the, I think I'm on a lone island saying that I think she should have kept it, but most people I think are like, it doesn't really matter either way. Might as well play it.
Do you think she would have played it for Rachel if Rachel hadn't told her about her idol?
Like in that sense? Oh, I don't think, no. I think the only time she would have played it for, actually, I don't know. Emily, what do you think? Do you think that she would have?
I don't think so, because I think her telling her about the idol is what gave her that sense of trust and loyalty. It's not like they've had some long-standing relationship. I mean, they have talked a little bit, but it's the Underdogs Alliance, but I don't think they've had some long-standing level of trust and security together. I think her telling her about that idol is what gave that to her. So I don't think that would have been that dynamic otherwise.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. I think the only way Sue would have played an idol for Rachel is if Sue had an idol around her neck at Final Five, and Rachel was the obvious target. And then it would have been like a play to save Rachel. Would that benefit her game? Maybe not. That's the only way I could see it happening. But I think you're right. I think they needed that like level of trust. And building it. I said this, building an alliance this late in the game. You don't really have the trust. You have the votes, but you need to earn the trust. It's hard. It's much harder to earn that kind of trust in the late game, in my opinion, than in the like earlier times.
Yeah, and well, we did see Rachel tell Sue and Caroline about the block a vote, which was like that stepping stone for the trust.
True.
I forgot about that.
Jinx. I forgot about the block a vote because it also really didn't add much. Interesting. Wait, did you guys see this? Sam has a perfect voting record because the 2 times he was blindsided were the 2 times he did not have a vote. So funny. So funny. Iconic, actually.
I want to like have a note on that. I'm like, why was the block a vote like played in private? Like, why did she not have to announce it? Like, why? How did that come to be?
For the block vote, I think you always play the block vote in private. I think it's just because you don't have to tell people that you're the one blocking it. So I think when it's played in like a sense, it's just like somebody goes to the tribal council and just says, "Oh man, I don't have a vote. I don't know who played it on me." But it's like one of those advantages that not everyone knows about, I think. Which is interesting. It just kind of fell flat. Again, another steal a vote, block a vote. Extra vote, flat.
And I think it was flat because you have Rachel going on this journey so late. Even if she didn't tell people about it, the logic of it being used at that point, who just went on a journey and no one else has done anything since then, and she probably got something and just didn't tell us. So obviously she told them, but I think that was a good move on her part because if it had been used, they probably would have figured it out because why else would someone have one at Final 6 at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think, I really don't like that they did a journey this late in the game. I do think a block a vote has a little bit more power in the later game than in the early, I think the block vote has power in very early or, very late because just the numbers, but it's just not going to be as useful because it doesn't, you're not stealing somebody's vote. You're not, adding a vote for yourself. It's just another person can't vote. So it's just, it's interesting. I did like when she told them. I was like, that was a really good. I think Rachel, people who are saying that Rachel has not played a good game, I'm like, are we watching the same show? Like, are we watching the same show? Like it was a little rough in the beginning for her, right? With the Andy of it all. And she wanted to get out John Lovett and then Annika and all of that happened. But then she did so much post-merge. She had some incredible moves. She made bonds. She was blindsided, but was able to get back out of it. Like she was a big target, but it was won immunities. She found an idol. Like things were used on her. She's played an incredible game. And if she wins, it will be an incredible, incredible win.
Yeah. Well, okay. To go back on that a little bit. So when they did the rock draw and she was with Tuku, like she was going to be voted out.
Yeah.
If Sol didn't give her that.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll come into play in Final Tribal?
Like them holding that against her?
Yeah.
Maybe. I feel like I could see if that comes up being like, you were going to be the one out. I could be like, she was like, yeah, but I wasn't. Yeah. Sol saved me. I'm still here. And then for some reason, you guys didn't vote me out the next time. I was the obvious vote.
Yeah. And I think you say, okay, I didn't even really have a relationship with Sol at all before, and something about my social prowess made him want to save me. Why would he do that? We had we weren't aligned. He knew that he wanted to work with me because I was such a whatever in the game. There was actually no reason prior for him to do that other than the fact that he really did want to work with her. So I think she can argue that side of it too, because it's not like it was, her closest ally did it,
Yeah. Exactly. It's just a very interesting, I think this Final Tribal Council is going to be really interesting. And I think, I think they're going to be tough. I think they're going to cross-examine. And I think that they're going to really have to hold their own. Those, whoever the final 3 are. Confirmed, not final 2. Yeah. Just so you guys know, confirmed by Jeff Probst himself, not final 2. Which I didn't think so. If it was going to be a final 2, I feel like this second finale would have to be 3 hours. It would have to, they need more time because like, you know,
Yeah.
it would be, if it was, there would still need to be a vote, like 2 challenges or an immunity challenge and then also a fire and then also a reunion. I don't think they could do that in 2 hours. And Final Trouble Council,
No.
they're not gonna do that in 2 hours. But she was Survivor. Okay, we got some comments over here. So Survivor Super Fun Time says she was the only non-Tuku, probably would be my answer. Weakened the tribe. And yeah, but you know, I think there is a way that if she was against Saul and he really was like, I don't like Gata, I don't like her, I want to make sure she goes home, he could have given it to one of the other ones. He didn't have to. He shook up the game, basically. He knew what he was doing. He decided to shake up the game. He decided he wanted to go for Tugu. And you know, there's a world in which, like, say it split, it was the split up and Rome was the one. I think Rome was maybe out already, but like Rome was the one over there. Maybe he goes, oh, you know, I'm going to give it to Tiana, and then Tiana can, you know, you like leave or whatever. And then Rome is definitely out. You know, I feel like another player there, it doesn't necessarily mean Saul would give it to that 1 out of 6, you know?
Yeah. I mean, do you think it makes her like, do you think like, I feel like in certain situations where this happens, like you can like make a case for yourself why you shouldn't be the one voted out and you can split them up like
What do you
without
mean?
any advantages. Like like Rachel going to them and being like, you should keep me, I'm a number for you, like get out one of the bigger people on your tribe and you'll have me, like you'll have a loyal number, so like let's vote out like Gabe or Tiana or someone, you know, like.
Yeah, I think that would have been good for another tribe, but the Tukus were so together and they were talking about it. Like, I mean, it reminded me of, you know, like Jem and Tim and stuff from 46. You know, they were just so together that everyone saw it. And I think she tried her best.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that they wanted to vote another person out. And, you know, I was hoping they would, but they definitely did not want to do that.
No.
Right? It would have been more interesting, but Rome was gone. Rome was gone at that point. He was, but it, you know, if Rome was over there, you know, thinking about the what ifs. We do have a lot more to talk about, obviously, about the episode, and we have some questions that were sent in that I want to get to. But before we do that, is there something that you guys want to talk about that we didn't cover yet, or that you want to make sure we hit upon before we go to the commercial and talk about something else? About the questions?
Yes, I have a few things that I like wrote down.
I'm looking at my notes.
Like at the tribal where Rachel used her idol, when she said, like, I feel like you kind of touched on it, but I like really liked when she said, like, I think the only thing better than attending your own funeral is knowing you're going to wake up alive the next morning. That was so good.
So good.
And when she told Andy that you were very convincing today, just not the way you thought, another great line.
Yeah.
So good.
Also, like leaving Andy with a really good taste in his mouth. She plays an idol on herself. He leaves and she's like, you convinced me. You played too well. I had to go for you. Like that leaves Andy like, oh man, look, I am amazing. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I am. That's a great way to leave.
It was so good.
It was so good. There's a sound on TikTok that it's like they put that to Diva. And I'm obsessed with it. And I'm gonna do like an outfit transition for the finale to that. I'm so excited about it. Oh man, always thinking of the TikToks.
That's so fun. The other thing I wanted to bring up was Teeny voting and Teeny saying like, I'll have a vote in 30 seconds. Like I just need 30 seconds because in Teeny, I don't know if they tweeted it or they've said something. Teeny was like, it was decided. Like we had decided already who I was going to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that was just like a moment panic of them deciding like, I don't know what I'm going to do, if I'm going to do what I agreed to, or they genuinely didn't know. But it was wild seeing them take the 30-second pause or however long it was. I wish that they had put like a counter, like a timer up to show how long they sat there, because I was like, hello, are you? And she was like, panic. I just thought that was wild.
That is such a good point. I feel like Teeny's had some interesting voting confessionals, and just, you know, And I think that added to the stress of the moment also.
Yeah, but I have to say it was so like it was kind of like not satisfying that Teeny didn't vote for Genevieve after everything because I feel like that would have been like such a good like thing for Teeny to say in the end. Like in the end, like I did get Genevieve, I did vote her out, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like not satisfying that Teeny voted Sam.
Yeah, that's so real, especially since, I mentioned earlier in this pod where she said like I'm gonna when she voted or at the voting confessional when she voted for Saul, she was like, I'm gonna avenge you. It's like the perfect time to avenge him.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point that I hadn't thought about. Somebody, Bo, in the comments over here said it isn't Teeny's move though, which is true, but you can still claim it. You can still be like, I helped.
Yeah.
People all the time say that what's her name voted out her mom. She didn't vote out her mom. She just voted for her mom because she couldn't turn the tide, but it's people still say, hey, she voted out her mom. She didn't. That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's cool it, everybody. She just went along with what everyone else was doing.
And like now Teeny can't even say that they voted Genevieve out. Like they can't even have any like claim in that. So
very true. Very true. Yeah. Very true. Oh man, is Teeny this season's Charlie Brown? We had Owen a couple seasons ago. Teeny this season. Oh, that's sad. But Owen is one of my faves of all time. So,
and Teeny is great. So
Teeny is great. Teeny's amazing, and honestly, love Teeny. Love Teeny. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick commercial, and right after we come back from the commercial, it's time for our Survivor Social Hour. Yes, we did it first.
Think you're the most knowledgeable Survivor superfan? Well, you can put that to the test with our Fantasy Survivor game. Welcome to Bracketology, fantasy sports for reality TV. We provide fantasy football style games for your favorite shows like Survivor and many more. We also have bracket style elimination challenges. Set your picks once for the whole season to see how your prediction skills fared. And don't forget to check out the season extras like contestant info, where you can see all the bios of each contestant, and our scoring recaps that are published each episode. Download the Bracketology mobile app or play on your computer at fantasy.bracketology.tv. It's entirely free to play, and you can win some awesome prizes. Good luck.
All right, people, it is time for Survivor Social Hour. All right, we do have some questions that were sent in the chat. So we've got a good amount of things to hit. So I've got this one that was sent in from TikTok a little bit earlier. Bo says, Sam or Rachel, who has a better shot of winning? And we touched upon this a little bit, but let's just talk about it a little bit more. Emily, who do you think is going to win out of those two? If we're limiting it to just those two, who has a better chance?
I think it ends up being Rachel. I think when we talk about the game that Rachel has played, pre-merge, not great, post-merge, great. Sam's is really the reverse of that. He was really kind of running things in his tribe pre-merge, and then post-merge, it's kind of been nothing. And I think when you're making that argument at Final Tribal Council, I think that she has a lot more to say that's recent, and most of his stuff is like further back and was only on his tribe, and I think doesn't necessarily have as much oomph to it. So I think it ends up being Rachel realistically. I will say though, I feel like the dialogue happening on podcasts and in TikTok comments is everyone being like, for sure, it's Rachel. But we are seeing all of this now with the edit. Sam has some friends on the jury. And so I do think there is a world in which maybe, you have Sierra, you have people who are seeing that side for Sam and maybe won't do for Rachel. And so I think there is a world in which he ends up beating her out. I don't think that probably is what happens, but it could. But ultimately, I think probably Rachel between the two.
Kara, what do you think?
I'm going to say, I think it's going to be Sam. I think Sam, yes, he had a good pre-merge. He kind of was a little rocky going into the merge. But, he was still labeled as a target the entire time and still is here in the end. And I had more to add on to that. And I feel like maybe I'm looking too much into the edit, but I feel like he's had a consistent edit from the beginning to the end now. He has a really good consistent edit, and I feel like that plays into him potentially winning. And I do think he has a lot of friends on the jury that would vote for him, and I feel like he'll be able to speak really, really well at Final Tribal. So I think he could win.
Yeah.
I think he will win.
between the two of them, I think it's really hard. I've been comparing Rachel to Jessie from 43 a lot because I think that like similarly, this is kind of how I felt like Jessie's edit was like so good. And obviously he didn't end up winning. And it was, but he had some incredible moves, especially there in the end. Definitely had the best like story to tell, his survivor story to tell. And then obviously he loses fire. And I think they brought up way too much. They brought up so much that Rachel's good at fire. Like Teenie was like, Rachel's beating me in fire. Teenie said Rachel is going to beat me in fire, basically. Like that is a very overt thing that feels too overt. Unless they want to make it like a Kim Spradlin type season where they just want to be like, you know what, this Boston Rob, hey you guys, this person is winning. And I would be okay with that. If I'm seeing like, if it's say a final two and it's just Sam and Rachel sitting right next to each other and it's not another person, I feel like it's like a hung jury. Like, I think it's like they have Sierra is the first juror. She's the mayor of Ponderosa. She's the queen of Ponderosa. She does set the tone a little bit of Ponderosa, and having a very good friend as the mayor of Ponderosa is very, very good for Sam. And I think helps him a lot. That being said, Sierra likes Rachel too. Like, you know, they were on the tribe together as well, and they didn't work as well together. Friends, and they still, you know, had things that they, you know, it wasn't like, it's not like if it's Sam or Andy, you know, it's somebody who they got along too. And so I think that like it all comes down to how they present their case, because I think they both have a very good case to present. And I think that, you know, Sam has a very good case of saying like, hey guys, you guys thought I was a threat at the very beginning of Merge. You know, I was a threat. I didn't have a vote. I was blindsided. Andy wanted Sierra for some reason, but it was almost me. And I'm still here. I don't know why, but because I am, you know, whatever it is. And I think that is a good argument too. And so I have the long answer to your question. I truly have no idea, because I truly see a world where it comes down to their final tribal council performance and how willing the jury is to listen to what they're saying. So it's going to be very interesting if the two of them do end up in final tribal council together. I doubt they do. Like, I feel like it's going to be either Sue, Teenie, Sam, or Sue, Teenie, Rachel. But if it's like Sue, Rachel, Sam, I feel like that'll be a very compelling, very interesting final tribal council. Or, you know, same thing, Teenie's in there too. But good question, because like I don't know. So you guys both had an answer. You guys are better than I am. I'm gonna plead the fifth. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I don't know. Okay, we have another question. This one was sent in via YouTube, and this one is specifically for Kara. Wait, Kara, any second thoughts about the rites of passage?
Yeah, I think Rome should have went before Keyshawn. That's it. That was my final thought.
Okay. I respect that. Okay, this was another question that was sent in via TikTok. This is going to be not about this season, but it's still interesting nonetheless. This is sent in by a person whose username is just smiley face. What is smiley face emoji specifically? What is your favorite season of all time? And then they go in, I guess the top three, because both returning and all new casts. Didn't really understand that part, but I guess what they mean is like, I'll rephrase it and say, what is your favorite returning season and non-returning season that you've seen? I'll start because I know my three. I'll only give two, but I know mine. My favorite returning season is Heroes versus Villains. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. My favorite non-newbies cast is probably going to be David versus Goliath. I love David versus Goliath. I think it's a really great first season. It's one of my faves. The cast is iconic. And also White Lotus. So David versus Goliath owns that show. So those are my two. Those are really boring answers. Like, not interesting answers. But, you know, it's because they're right. Kara, what are your two?
So are my favorite returning and non-returning?
Yeah, newbie and yeah.
Okay. I think I'm gonna say Millennials versus Gen X.
Great season. great season. That's Ryan's favorite season too.
For returnees, you know what? I haven't seen a lot of the returner seasons. So
Ooh. The best, I'll tell you, the best one's Heroes versus Villains. Second Chances is a good second. Second Chances is a good second.
I feel
Emily,
like Game Changers is like the only one I've really seen. And that's not it.
No, Game Changers is fine. There are some interesting moments. Not a huge fan
There
of the
were
winner.
some interesting moments.
Not a huge fan of the winner. Emily, what about you? I know you haven't seen all the seasons. So with what you've seen, do you have a favorite newbie or a new favorite returners?
Heroes versus Villains also, yeah, not exciting, but I have seen quite a few of those from around that time. And then was Kagayan all new?
Yeah.
Players? Yeah. So probably Kagayan. I think that was one of those ones too, like when Survivor for a period of time like got put on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but they put like a couple random seasons. That was when they put on there. And I had seen it before, but didn't remember a lot of it. And during, I don't know if it was COVID or after COVID, like a group of my friends and I were watching it and we were not really Survivor people. And I think that started like getting the gears going in my brain. So I have a soft spot for that season. I think it was a lot of fun for sure.
So
Randy
good.
agrees with you. Yes, Cagayan. I love Cagayan. I will say it's a very good season. Bryce
great.
Isaiah, famously the third
Mhm.
boot. Tony, the speaking llama. Like, I mean, it's hit after hit after hit. Jatia, with
good.
the rice. Like it's an incredible season. So great question. Thank you for asking that. We have some people. I just want to say we have some people in the comments over on TikTok saying Micronesia as a returning season. That's a very, very good. I guess I was thinking full returnees. I would still say Heroes versus Villains, but Micronesia is incredible. Now, here's the question. Do captain seasons count as returnees? Because only 2 people returned. And like, I love the Philippines. 3 returned for the Philippines, but I love the Philippines. But it's still Heroes versus Villains. But it's just interesting. Okay, so we have, this is a very easy, quick question. Randy sent into the chat earlier. Did you guys see they made Operation Italy shirts on the Survivor store? Yes, I saw. I will be buying. So
I may have purchased today.
already? Oh my God, jealous. Yeah, Paramount Store has Operation Italy t-shirts. That's how hard that move hit.
It's so
They're like
funny.
selling it in the freaking Paramount Store. Incredible. I will be buying. I will be purchasing. I'll be adding to my ridiculous amount of Survivor merch. Okay, so we have another question. Similar to one we've already answered, but it's still a great question from Reality TV Drama from the TikToks asks, who wins between Sam, Teenie, and Sue? So this is an actual final 3 scenario. I feel like the obvious answer is Sam, but
Yeah.
I could see a Sue win.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Who do you think, Emily, out of those 3?
I think, again, I agree, probably Sam, but I think the Sue logic too is thinking about like Kyle did not know what he knows about Sue and the beef that he didn't really know about now. So like, I think there is a world in which he's like, yeah, Sue. And if she comes out and says her age that they all probably already know anyways, but that's like a flex. I think Kyle could be like, wow, that's like really impressive. And maybe he has some sway with the jury. Because, you know, when they were out on the island, he said in his exit interviews, he didn't really know the extent of the beef that existed, that he wasn't really part of with her. So I think there is a world, I agree, in which it could be Sue, but I think it's probably Sam. And I think it's probably Sam by not a close vote.
Yeah. I mean, I could see a world in which, depending on how they perform at Final Tribal Council, Gabe still votes for, like, Gabe and Caroline vote for Sue because they saw her game up close. I could see a world where maybe Kyle votes for Sue. I feel like Saul, if he doesn't vote for Teenie, his vote is up for grabs. And I think it'll probably go to Sam, but I don't think Sue winning, like, there was this like bond that Sue and Saul had about their age, like them being the older 2. Maybe that's something that like sways him, because we know it's not just the game that they vote for. The jury votes for, you know, the person, their story, how they played, how it affected them, like a lot of factors go into votes. So, you know, Andy, I think, would probably vote for Sam. Sierra would vote for Sam. Like, I think it could be like a 3 to 8 jurors, 3 to 5. I don't think, you know, I don't know. It would be interesting. Kara, what do you think? Did I ask you? I can't remember.
I think I agree. I think oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I think Sam would win in that scenario. But I do think Sue would have a good shot at getting like a lot of votes because I do think I think the loyal game is a respectable game. And I would like to like see her and hear her talk more about it.
Yeah.
And
I think it really depends on her performance. I think if she really holds her own, answers the questions truthfully, and really convinces. I think that, Ronnie says, I think only Caroline votes Sue, which I think is probably true. But I think that she could win Gabe's vote. I think so. We have Randy asks, what's the likelihood of a split tie between Sam and Rachel and Teeny and Sue? And Teeny and Sue has to be the tie-breaking vote. That would be stressful. That would be stressful, and I would be stressed, and I don't know if I'd be enjoying myself, but that'd be crazy.
Can you imagine how stressed Teeny would be?
Oh my God.
I don't want that for them. They don't need that in their life.
I don't know. Oh my God. The tie vote, from, Ghost Island stresses me out when I think about it. Like Laurel going there and voting. I can't even. Ugh. But it is what it is.
That is so stressful to think about.
I'm really don't even enjoy thinking about it. Okay. Oh, this is an interesting question from Dakota. This was sent in on YouTube. Who do you think is going to be the best on fire co-host of season 47?
Sam.
Sam, really? Sam, okay. You think that they're going to go with a similar, I guess not the same as Charlie, but similar placement as Charlie late in the game rather than doing something a little bit, earlier?
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably
Sam. Maybe.
What if Andy?
That's what, yeah, maybe Andy.
What if it's Andy? What if they just want the chaos and they want Andy,
Well, also Andy, it's been so interesting. He's a longtime RJP patron, but it's been interesting to hear him in his exit interviews and how eloquently he's articulating thoughts about the game, and hearing him when he's well and well fed and is doing better versus the stress of the island. I think there is an argument that he would be very, very good at it. It's been really interesting to hear him talk about the game and his self-awareness now. I think Andy would actually be a really good pick.
Andy would be good.
Andy's he's a very smart guy. He has been sending in questions to RHAP for a long time. So he's not, he knows how to speak in front of people on podcasts and whatever else. Not that you need that to be, a co-host, but it definitely doesn't hurt. And low key, it would be interesting as hell. It'd be interesting as hell because, Charlie played a very specific kind of game. Dee played a very specific kind of game. Rick Devens played a little bit more of a Rachel game, but we haven't had somebody who has played an Andy game where he's been on the bottom for so long and he's, had to deal with a lot and maybe wasn't the obvious vote and all that stuff. I think it'd be very interesting. Randy.
I agree.
Randy says it's me. Jeff already contacted me. Not true. That'd be cool though. Okay, so we've got a couple of more questions. This one was sent in through TikTok. We've got David sent in this. Would Andy have done better on a different season with a different community? I think that's a very interesting question and a very difficult one to answer, but interesting nonetheless. I'll start because I was able to read this question first, so I thought about it a little bit. I think the big thing with this is if he is able to play off that first mistake, because I think if it's Andy's first season, I think he gets in his head no matter what. I don't think it's specifically the people that he was with. I think that he has been building up this game in his head for so long. He's on that beach doing something that he's been wanting to do for forever. He's been in the casting, tubes or whatever for a couple of years. It's just building up in his head. I think that crash happens no matter what on his first season. And I think that crash, how his tribe takes it, is fully dependent on how he continues his game. And I think that maybe there's a world in which, say, Kenzie's on that tribe, right? And he talks to Kenzie and Kenzie actually does wake up and talk to him and do all the things that she did with Ben, for example, instead of Rachel, where Rachel's don't talk to me. I don't want to do this. But I really think that crash happens no matter what. And I think there's a world in which he's the first one because his tribe is like, I don't want that around, you know? So I actually think it probably worked out the best for him with the people that he was with. Just because, you know, you build something up in your head. It's just like this big thing and you actually have to do it. It kind of would, I don't know, it stressed me out.
Yeah, I think he did really well on this season. Like, I feel like what he did on this season, like, he couldn't do on a different season. So I feel like this was like his best case scenario, despite having that first episode.
Yeah.
That was what like shaped the rest of his game.
Yeah, I agree. Emily, what do you think?
I think the only way I can see it having gone better for him than the turnaround he was able to do is if he was on a tribe or on a cast where, you know, in the situation where he reached out to Rachel and was like needing that support and she was like, we can't do this. If someone did do that for him, and I think he feels like he's able to get on solid ground a little bit sooner. He's talked about in his exit interviews. He's like, I was having a full on panic anxiety attack for like 2 days. And at home, you know, I have a coping mechanism. I can like reach out to people. I can lean on people for that support. And he kind of tried to do that with Rachel and it wasn't reciprocated, understandably so from a game perspective. But I think in a world where maybe, I don't know, he's on a tribe with a bunch of softies and people like feel a lot of empathy for him in that moment and want to like, I don't know, take care of him or want to be like, take them under his wing. I think there is a world in which maybe that bodes well for him, but I think that this season probably worked out about as well as it could have for him in reality.
Yeah. And I think that it probably works out, you know, not only thinking about this season, but in future seasons, like he is the storyteller of this season. He is the arc of this season. I will think of the winner, right? But I will always think of Andy and what happened in his first episode and how he created Operation Italy and had all of these chaotic edits and all these things. And like, I think that bodes well for him in the future of Survivor. And I don't think that he really has that big of a target when he's going back. He's not like a Yao Man going back on a second season or a Robson, you know, where he's like played this mastermind game and like owned everybody. Like he didn't. He had a couple of good moves, but is he going to be the biggest threat out on season 50 or season 59? Probably not. And I think that is probably good for him and his next time out. If he ever goes back, which I think he will. I think he's gotta be a lock for coming back. Okay. We have this question from Dakota saying, any fire making theories? What do we think is going to happen with fire making? We talked about this a little bit, but I think Rachel loses. I think she does. I really think she does. I don't want it to happen, to be clear. I do not want that to happen, but
loses to who?
I think she loses to Teeny.
That would be so satisfying for Teeny.
Do I actually think that's going to happen? Maybe not. This is my conspiracy theory. I always have a conspiracy theory. This is my conspiracy theory because
I could see it though.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go.
My question is I was listening again to, I don't remember which podcast, but somebody was talking about that some years they give them materials and some years they don't. Again, I haven't watched New Era seasons, but I think that has so much to do with it because Teeny trying to start a fire from scratch with no, like that, I think maybe they panic, but I think if the resources are in front of them, they can I think that probably plays a lot into it. Whereas Rachel, I think no resources probably figures it out quicker than other people. So I think that I'm curious how that plays into it too. I think that Rachel wins fire and they're just making it really obvious. That's my thought.
I would love that. To be clear, I would love that. Like I said, I'd be happy with anybody winning, but I don't know. It's just like, it is like the mending of the bag and the bag being burned just seems like, is Teeny going to lose fire and Rachel's going to beat Teeny? I don't know. Like,
yeah. And I forgot where, I don't know if we talked about this yesterday or if I heard this somewhere, but it was the moment when Genevieve and Rachel were like, if we don't win, who wins? And like them leaving that in is like maybe like showing like maybe neither of them win and it is someone else there. So
there's just so like, I feel like, I don't know, going into finale is always so hard because it being a final for fire making and not like a vote, I think it would be hard either way because obviously who wins immunity? Like, is Sam going to win immunity? Maybe Sam doesn't win immunity because, we have this. Wait, guys. I'm very excited about this idea now. We had Sam crying. Oh my God. I'm very excited about this. Okay. So we had Sam crying over the fact that he just can't win. He can't seem to win immunity. And he's winning all of these rewards, but like he just can't do it. He can't win the immunity. What if he wins the immunity when it's most necessary? And we have that arc and he wins that immunity. And then, as I saw somebody over here on TikTok say, and then he puts himself in fire against Rachel and beats Rachel. Sam wins.
That's risky.
Crazy. That'd be crazy.
I don't know if he's ballsy enough to do it.
That'd be crazy. I mean, the thing is like you think back to like Cassidy's final Triple Council, which Emily, I know you didn't see this. So in 43, Cassidy won the last immunity challenge. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. Cassidy won the final immunity challenge. And I think it wasn't Owen. Yeah, it was Cassidy. And at final and she did not put herself in fire. She put up, who was it? It was Jesse and Gabler, right? And Jesse lost. So the jury saw Gabler beat Jesse in fire. And Jesse was like the guy to beat. Like he had these crazy moves. Like he blindsided his best friend. He like stole somebody's idol. It was like crazy, right? Incredible player. He's somebody who I think he comes back. He's gone early because he just played too good of a game. And so they held it against Cassidy. I found Triple Council. Why didn't you didn't earn your way here? Why didn't you put yourself in fire? And Cassidy's like, well, I did. I had the immunity. I earned my way here because I had the immunity necklace around my neck. But they did hold it against her, even though. So, and then Gabler ends up winning, probably because I saw him win the fire, but also because of he had a pretty good final Triple Council. And I don't know that people really wanted to vote for Cassidy, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But I think that there are some seasons when you put yourself in fire, it does nothing for you. And then you put yourself in fire and you win, and it really would change your game. I think Cassidy would have won had she done it. Heidi didn't change her game at all, right? She put herself in fire. Fastest fire you've ever seen. Didn't really matter. It, obviously basically won the game for Chris Underwood. But there are some people that I could see, like, I think that is the best way for Sam to really have a very convincing argument at Final Triple Council. I don't know.
What if we get like we get Teeny winning the final immunity, similar to like Ben from last season?
Crazy.
It'd be so fun.
That'd be so good. I feel like there are a lot of really fun things that could happen. I mean, it's Survivor. A lot of fun things could happen.
And I feel like there's got to be something fun coming, because otherwise, why bother split it into two? Like, I am of the belief that I think it's kind of dumb to split it into two and call it. But if there is really I thought last week's episode was great. If there really is some big surprise, whatever, maybe worth the payout. So I'm hopeful there's something still to come.
Yeah. I'm hoping so too. My worry is that they just didn't want Genevieve's vote out to be buried in the finale. Because I think that sometimes final 5 vote does get buried. Like, I thought about, what was her name? Dr. Allison from David versus Goliath. Like, she was the first one voted out of that season in the finale. And I just sometimes forget that she was voted out. So I wonder if even it's just like they wanted to give Genevieve a little bit more of the flowers, because Andy's was amazing no matter what, because it was an idol. People are going to remember that. It's like almost like I wonder if they wanted to get I doubt it. Roy says it was split because of a CBS decision pre-filming. Maybe, but still. I hope it's something good. It's something good. Okay, we have another question. We kind of talked about this, but I'll put up here. Wild West said, do you think that the fire helps anyone's case at the end, even if they are sitting next to Rachel? Yeah, I think it helps Sam's case. Would it help anybody else's if they win fire and if they're sitting next to Rachel? Maybe Sue.
Maybe, yeah.
Like, hey, I won my way here. I fired my way here, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think it really. I feel like I was saying that the most shocking winner for me would probably Sue. I think now you guys have convinced me that I think the most shocking win would be Teeny my winner pick. I picked Owen too, and it was so hard to watch all season when Owen was just kind of Charlie Browning around the island, and it's happening again. Oh man. Okay, I have a couple more. Let's do one more question. What's the last one? Sorry, oh wait, this is not gonna be the last question, but I do want to answer this. This is kind of funny. So on my TikTok page, I always do every single season since season 41, we do a if you see this video first on your For You page, that means that TikTok thinks that you're this person's team. And I do it because I think it's a really funny way to see, what the algorithm pushes out, like who people think is going to win. Usually just is basically a poll for people, because how the TikTok algorithm works is like if you comment or whatever, then it usually does better. And so it's been right in 4 out of the 6 times. It was wrong with Cassidy, and it was wrong with Gabler. Thought it was going to be Cassidy. It was right with Erica. It was correct with Marianne. And there was somebody else it was wrong for. For Jam Jam. They thought it was going to be Carolyn. So I'm like, I did my thing. And the person with the most views was absolutely Rachel by about 21,000. Like the next, has like 22,000 views and like 3,000 likes. And then Sam, next one, has 2,000 views and 80 likes. So TikTok is thinking it's going to be Rachel. So that if that plays into anybody's decision, I wanted to report that information here. Okay. So, the last question, I'm trying to decide what, I don't know. They're all so good. It's so hard. Okay. I got it. Do you think the jury, this is from Protoman21, will the jury hold it against Rachel for voting out Andy over Sam? In the sense of, hey, we didn't actually think Andy was a threat. Why would you keep Sam in the game when he was the biggest threat in the game? Kara, I'll start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I feel like she's definitely going to have to explain her reasoning, but I feel like I'm sure once Andy got to jury, and I'm sure he talked about what he did and was like, would you have voted for me? Maybe they were like, okay, it makes sense why you voted him out. So I don't know if it's that big of a deal, actually.
Emily, what do you think?
I think if she retells the conversation well enough with what happened with Andy, which I think that she will, she gave him that little shout out at this tribal council and said, like, it just didn't do what you wanted. I think if she can articulate that well enough and be like, he was pitching his game to me and I felt like he was doing it very well, surprisingly well, and I didn't want to be surprised at final tribal council. I think there's a pitch there and it's fine.
Yeah. I think that I don't think that they would hold it against her. And I definitely think that she is somebody who we've seen time and time again is able to talk really well, speak really well in these situations. And I think that she'll be able to hold her own, explain why she's why she did the things that she did. And I think that would also play to Andy's ego. So, right. I think that if Rachel's sitting there, if she's sitting there next to Sam and people are like, I cannot believe you decided to keep Sam in over Andy, blah, 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 whatever else. In theory, I think that Andy's vote is going to Sam. But if Rachel's sitting there and is like, hey, you know what? I had to vote Andy out. I heard his pitch, just like you said, Emily. I heard his pitch. It was too good. All of his stuff. And I just didn't want to sit next to that at Final Tribal Council if it was going to happen. Everyone thought he was a GOAT, but he convinced me in those 5 minutes. And I think she does that. That wins over Andy in that moment, if she hadn't already. And that's a vote in her pocket that I think she takes away from Sam.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that I don't think it's going to be held against her. I think she's going to be able to use it to her advantage. As always, thank you so much for everyone who sent in questions. You bring up I always love the roads that they take us down. So thank you so much for chatting and sending in the questions. We've got a couple more things to hit, but as always, my favorite part of the episode, it's Kara's sweet thing of the podcast. All right, Kara, for those who are new, please explain to us what the sweet thing is.
Okay, so I have a podcast with my cousin Kateri called the Sweet Things Podcast. At the end of each episode, we give our sweet thing of the week. which is usually like a snack, food, or drink, whatever. For Survivor, it's a little different. It's like a moment, something we liked. If the food looks good, it could be the food. So for this one, mine is at the reward when Teeny is drinking the wine and getting a little wine drunk. That was so good.
So
Such a good
good.
moment. And yeah, that's my sweet thing.
Teeny's like, I don't need juice. This is my juice. So good. Emily, do you have a sweet thing?
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, my sweet thing is very obvious, but I'm gonna have like an asterisk to it. So my sweet thing is Rachel saying, "You know what, Jeff? You know what's better than going to your own funeral? It's knowing that you're gonna be alive the next morning. I want to play this for myself." That's my sweet thing of the episode. But the asterisk is, I need everyone to go find that edit on TikTok. Watch it. That's my sweet thing. That edit is so good. It's like, no, I just want to eat it. It's so good. It's a great moment made only better by this edit. So
I need to see that.
And also, as Jameson said in the TikTok comments, Rachel ate though. So not only it's ate, it's a sweet thing. Perfect. Amazing. So that's going to be my sweet thing of the podcast with a little asterisk.
I think mine is probably when, we were getting that little, thank you, Quinn. We were getting that little like hugging segment. And I think Genevieve, one of them said, you're the best friend of me I could have asked for to Rachel. And I was like, that just perfectly, I've seen an edit of Genevieve and Rachel to what is the Charlie XCX song?
Oh, the girl's so confusing. I think.
Yes.
I haven't seen that. Ooh, I need to see that.
I will look for it and send it to you. It was so good. And I'm like, I wish we had gotten to see a little more of their stuff over the course of the season, because I think there was more of it probably than was shown. But I think that I love them both so much. Genevieve was my winner pick, so very crushed to see her go. But I think getting to see that kind of them pitted against each other, but still being kind about it, you know what I mean? I think is very respectable and is hard to do sometimes when you're in a game setting. And so that's my sweet thing.
That's so good. And you're saying I'm now realizing that Genevieve and Rachel are giving the American version of Kirby and Ferris from Australian Survivor. For those of you who watch Australian Survivor.
Yeah.
Not to that extent, but like they were against each other for such a long time. Like Genevieve or Rachel wanted to get Genevieve out for so long and vice versa. That it's like the American version. That's kind of cool. Oh, I just realized that. I'm having a lot of epiphanies this episode, which I adore. All right, it's now time to get to the last segment of the episode, which is the Social Butterfly Award of the Week. All right, so the Social Butterfly Award, as always, goes to the person that we thought had the best social game this episode. Honestly, I think it's so hard when you get to the end because I think the social game is so important. I think that there is so much riding on your social abilities. And I genuinely still to this, usually I know who I'm going to give it to at this point in the game or at this point in the podcast. I still don't know. And so I will let you guys go first because I think that they all did well. I don't know. It's hard. Kara.
See, this was another easy one for me. Like immediately I was like, Rachel, the way that she maneuvered that final 6 vote with like sitting with them on the beach, them telling her she's going home, her going to Sue and telling her that she has the idol, them voting her playing the idol. I thought that was great.
Amazing. Okay. Is it that obvious for you too, Emily?
I disagree. I think that for me, it's Sam, and it feels pretty obvious because Rachel, in my mind, I think she's a great player, but if the social game was really there, she would have been able to convince them not to write her name down at all. Okay, and Sam was somebody who really probably should have been a target. He was able to make sure it stayed on Andy, make sure it stayed on Genevieve, and he didn't have immunity for any of that, didn't have an idol, didn't win immunity, but was able to, finesse the fake idol and telling the tea. And he was able to really, he is the only one that came out unscathed at this point out of Operation Italy. And so for me, I think in terms of using his social prowess and literally having nothing else to offer over the course of this episode, I think it's probably Sam.
Okay, you're definitely right. And forget everything that I said because that is the correct answer.
I do think that, Emily, you swayed me. I just felt like this
Mhm.
point in the game, you have to have some kind of social agency, or they just think you're a goat. And so, like, I was really debating between, honestly, all four still left in the game, and I think that people think that, you know, a couple people might be goats. I think that they have a little bit more stock in their game than a lot of us fans are giving them credit for this season, more than others. And I think that, like, you know, I think Teeny actually also played really well socially, because if Rachel doesn't have an idol, then Teeny is now ingrained in a 4. Teeny is now with Genevieve, Sam, Andy, and Teeny, and now in the bottom of 4 rather than in the middle of a 3. And I think that, you know, even with the block of vote, I think that there is a world, you know, in which that could go well for those 4. Because if Rachel doesn't have an idol, let's say the idols are no longer in play, the only thing that's in the game is a block of vote. The vote is still 3-2. And so, you know, I think that is a really good move on Teeny to be able to be like, you know what, you blindsided me, you got me. But, you know, obviously it didn't go the way that anybody expected it because of the idol. But I still think that that's a very good social move, even though it doesn't work out for Teeny. But I think you're right, Emily. I think it does go to Sam. But that's why it was hard for me, because I was like, I can see a lot of different really interesting social moments throughout the game, or throughout this episode specifically. So it was just really difficult to, like, land on one, but I think you're right. I think it is Sam. As Ronnie agrees in the comments, Sam in all caps. I can't believe it. 2 days, y'all, until we find out the winner of season 47 of Survivor. So crazy. I can't even, like, all right, you know what we're going to do? This is not going to be a segment. This is just going to be a thing that, you know, put it all on the table. Who do we think is going to win? I'm going to say Sam.
Sam.
Sam?
I'm gonna stick with Rachel.
Good. Okay. Someone had to say Rachel. We couldn't all say Sam. Yeah. I just, you know, I'm kind of thinking the only reason, and I know the podcast is over, but I'm still thinking about this. My friend Ryan, who is a big Survivor fan, he literally, before the season started, he was like, why are they doing the beach drop in Nashville? Is it because Sam wins Survivor?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, of course not. People voted on Nashville, and, you know, but then I was like, but the cities that they put Nashville up against were never going to win. Was it a rigged vote? And is it because Sam wins? I don't know. Guys, I don't know what's going on.
Listen, if we're being superstitious, I made a video on TikTok about this. I think Rachel wins because I almost picked her for my fantasy team and I didn't. Same thing with Big Brother this season. I was this close to picking Chelsea. I had Post-it notes, almost picked her, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then Chelsea won. And Rachel was the same thing. And for some reason, instead of going 2-2-2, because I picked 6 people from each tribe, I didn't pick 2 from Gata. And Rachel was the one I left out. And so I think that history is going to repeat itself, and it's got to be Rachel.
I love this kind of stuff. This stuff is so fun. This stuff that has nothing to do with the show, but still is fun. I love. All right. Well, thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. If you're watching live or if you're listening after the fact, thank you so much. We love talking about Survivor here. So it's really fun that we get to do it and people listen. We have a lot going on this week. I will be going to the Bryson Wen Presents event on Wednesday. If you're there, hold on, wait. Shameless plug. If you guys are going, I will be doing my stickers again, like I always do. So come find me. I actually literally got them in the mail as I was, hold on. My Rachel stickers.
Yes.
So
I
if you
or
a team, somebody come get a sticker going to the Bryson Wen, but that does affect the schedule for this week. So I believe we're doing the after show on Thursday, and social is actually going to be pushed back until Saturday. We're doing a special one with a very special fun guest. So make sure to keep an eye out for on our Instagram for the schedule for this upcoming week. But as always, thank you guys so much for listening, for chatting. Emily, thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun talking to you. Where can people find you? Where are you located that they can go and follow you or listen to you chat about other reality TV shows?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me. This was so much fun, especially as somebody who is relatively new to chatting Survivor. This was so fun. My platform that I'm talking the most on is TikTok, Emily_Little. chatting about Big Brother, Survivor, all the things, crossing our fingers that TikTok finds a way to stick around. But if not, on Twitter, the same thing, Emily_Little, or Instagram, Emily N as in Nicole Little. Yeah, would love to connect with y'all there and continue chatting about competition reality shows. But again, thank y'all so much for having me on. This was such a blast.
I'm so happy you were able to come. Kara, where can people find you?
At the Sweet Things podcast or XOX_Kara on Instagram.
Amazing. And Survivor US is coming to an end, but we still obviously cover Australian Survivor. And there's so much reality TV coming up. We've got Traders in early January, Deal or No Deal Island in early January. I know this is not reality TV related, but White Lotus season 3 in February. And then again, season 48 of Survivor in February as well. So a lot of stuff. It's not going to be that long of a break. So it's got a lot of stuff to talk about, but thank you everyone so much for tuning in, for chatting. Emily, Kara, thank you again for always being a blast to talk to. Don't forget to stay